next week, just let me know, and I'll get it to you. The notes and little particle for today's class is in the box next to me, so if you guys want to click on it and pick those up. So for homework from last time, you guys were supposed to create a sequence and put it in your sequence 1 note card, and then change your events note card to include at least 5 events. And I've had a couple of you send them to me, so thank you. Everybody looks like they did it correctly, so yay. I'm going to call you up on the stage and let you demonstrate your sequence. And we're not going to have any music, so you're just going to see the person dancing. But that way we can make sure, one, that you can make yourself dance. Don't freak out. Make yourself dance. And then make sure that your events work, because you'll be able to see the chat from your HUD, and hopefully if something's not working the way that you think it should, you'll get some kind of notice that there's an error, okay? As far as the events go, it looks like everybody has done it correctly. So I did want to go over events just a little briefly. Yummy made this lovely little note card for me, and I had a little conversation with Winnie before class. Everything in the HUD is tied to the events note card, and like we said last week, you're limited to 20 events. Okay, you can have either a duration, which means that each event, the number after that is how many seconds that event is going to last, or you can do it in elapsed time, which is more like the Spot PD timeline thing. So when you used elapse, event 1 might happen at 2 seconds in, event 2 happens at 15 seconds, so that's 13 seconds after event 1, etc., etc. It doesn't matter which you use, duration or elapsed. Use whichever one is more comfortable for you. I tend to use duration just because that's what I started using when I first started learning the Artiste, but I've used them both. So whichever one makes you more comfortable is the one I encourage you to use. Winnie and I had a little bit of discussion about things, when things happen, and I think her description is pretty accurate. What the events note card is a roadmap of when things are going to happen in your routine. So the events note card is just when something is going to happen. Where you put those somethings depends on what it is that you want to happen. If you want to remove or add a piece of clothing, that goes on 1 note card. If you want to give an emote, that goes on 1 note card. If you want to give a chat command, that goes on a different note card. So it's just a matter of making sure that your puzzle pieces kind of all fit together to that event note card. Okay? So I'm hoping after today's session you guys will have a better understanding of what the events mean and how it all works together, because we're going to actually do some of those things. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, I'm going to ask for a volunteer to go first. Everybody rushes the stage. Path, you going to go first? You heading this way? Okay, Path, let's have you go first, and then, here, let me get out of the way. And then, Lil, you can go after him. Does that work for everybody? Let me move my seat out of the way for you here, and then I'll get out of the way. Oh, you're already up there, Path. Just go. I just want to make sure you guys can make yourselves dance. That's all this is. I'm not critiquing your performance or anything. Okay, pretend Path has a gun, everyone. Okay, so yay, you successfully made yourself dance or move or whatever. Okay, Lil. Well done, Lil. Okay, does anybody want to go after Lil? Zed? Thank you, Zed. Okay, Winnie's up next. Winnie's been reading ahead. It's giving double emotes for some reason. Well, I did too. That's why I thought Winnie was reading ahead, because you can make it spoof like that. Ah, okay. Okay. Okay, so let me remind everybody, since this came up, that we talked last time about the buttons on the HUD. So when you want to test something to see if it works, of course, when you want to test your whole routine, you want everything activated. But if you just want to look at certain pieces or you don't want certain pieces to fire, say I'm going to emote in a dance, but I don't want to test my emotes because I know they're working. I just want to test my sequence. You can turn off the auto emote button, toggle it to red, and then they won't fire when you press play on the HUD. That way you can test pieces. Okay? Because I do that a lot, especially so if I wanted to test my emotes, I could turn everything else off and just press play and just have my emotes run so I can see if they work the way I want them to. Or I could do just my emotes and my sequence. Okay, so don't forget that you have that option available to you. Okay, um, quickly, because I didn't write a note down, because I know that some of you are taking the class that don't actually own it. So, Rebecca, you don't have one, right? Okay. Just so I'm trying to keep track here of who still needs to demonstrate, and obviously if you don't have one, then you can't. Jess, you do have one? And I know you weren't here last week, so if you're not ready to demonstrate, that's fine. Okay. So while Winnie's loading hers up, Megan, do you want to go? Winnie, are you ready to go? Okay. So after Winnie, we'll do Jess. And Sexy, I know you weren't here last week, so do you have something ready to go, or we just skip over you and then we'll move on to this week's? Okay. Whenever you're ready, Winnie. Yay! So everybody knows how to make themselves dance. First hurdle. So, now that you all know how to make yourselves dance, let's teach you how to do some more things. Okay, so everybody knows how to do their sequences, and everybody has a rough idea of how to create an events note card. So what we're going to look at now is three things. We're going to look at the Auto FX note card and what that lets us do. We're going to look at the Auto Emote function, and we're going to look at the Auto Adorn function. Okay, so let's start with the Auto FX note card. So open up your HUD, go into the Contents tab, and find the Auto FX note card. Okay, should be the third one on the list. So when you open it up, you'll see that it's blank. We're going to add in a few things so that you can practice, okay? This is probably one of the most powerful note cards in the HUD. You can use it for many things, but today we're going to focus on using it for chat commands, okay? So just like any of the other HUDs that you use, you can use the Artiste to issue chat commands. You can open curtains, you can talk to other HUDs if they can listen, you can turn on and off particle effects. Anything that accepts a chat command, you can put in the Auto FX note card, okay? So just to reiterate again, remember that with the Artiste, everything that happens is tied to your events note card. So every command that we're going to work with, it's going to be tied to an event on your events note card. Okay, there are other ways to trigger commands using other functions and to make them go off before an actual event, but that gets kind of complicated. So for now, we're just going to tie everything to an event. Okay, and we're going to use the Auto FX note card to do it. So in the class supplies with your notes, you should have gotten a particle effect, okay, a full perm particle effect. If you add it and then edit it, there's a script in there, the particle script, and there's a place where you can change the channel that it listens on. Okay, so I want everybody to open it, edit the script, and try to pick a channel that nobody else will pick. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is, just try to pick a channel that you think other people wouldn't pick. Okay, once you change the channel, you're not getting the particle script. The particle, is that what you're saying, Jess? Let me check here. Oh, are you kidding? Okay, hang on one second. Let me fix that and I'll put it back in there. Let me find it again. Here. Okay, so just delete the one that you had. And I'll put a new full perm one in the box, and then you can get it again. No, they're saying it's not the card, Yummy. It's my effect that I made for the class. So everybody just click on the box again. There should be a full perm one in there now. The body stars, yes. Okay, and when you get the full perm version, add it to wear it, and then edit it, and then open up the script that's in it and change the channel that it listens on in the script. Try to find a unique channel. So whatever you want to make it, okay? And then when you're done with that, let me know. Clearly, I am not well prepared today. Okay, hang on one second. Well, more than 1 second probably, but hang on, I will fix that. I know, I do too, Yummy. And I didn't test it before class, and I should have, so let me just make a new one really quick. And I'll fix the perms on the script. Well, not quite that small. And of course, I don't remember which. I'll just use this one. Yes, Sexy, that's what I want you to do, is to pick your own chat channel for it. So hang on just a second and let me make sure I'm doing this full perm. And okay. So the little box in front of me, I set it to sell for 0. If you guys will just click on it and buy it, and you should get the full perm version. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so hopefully everything is full perm now. Go into your script, set your channel, save the script, close it, and let me know when you have that done. I didn't look at the channel. Let me check that real quick. Yes, currently it's at 69, so change it to something that's not 69. No, I took it out of the box. There's one right in front of me on the floor set to sell for 0. So just buy it for 0, and then it should give it to you full perm. Okay, so does everybody have their listening channel changed? Okay, so now that you have your listening channel changed, we're going to go back to that Auto FX note card, and we're going to use the HUD to tell it to turn on and off. Okay, so what you're going to do is add some lines to your Auto FX note card, and they're going to look like this. Okay, you're going to put in the event number and a comma, and this goes after the trace off line. Okay, so leave that one in there, and then underneath that you would put the event number, R, and then whatever channel number you picked for the script, the equal sign, and then start, because that's the command to make the particles start. Okay? In between the trace off and the end is where you're going to type these two lines. Right, we're going to type in between those. Okay? So the 1, comma, R, whatever channel number you have, equal sign, start. And then the next line would be event number 2, same thing, R and the channel number. No, you don't leave the brackets in. It's just whatever the number of the channel. Okay? And then equals stop on the second line. Okay, so for example, if I chose channel 69, this is what it would look like, those two lines would look like. So yours should look just like that, except that instead of the 69, you'll have whatever channel you picked. So what this does is tell your HUD to issue the start command to say it on event 1, and to issue the stop command on event 2. Now, how fast or slow it does either of those things will depend on how you have your events note card set up. Okay? Because again, everything is tied to events. So whatever you have set for event number 1, that's the time that they will start, and whatever you have set for event number 2, that's the time that they will stop. Okay? Something else to remember is that you want to make sure that all your commands, and this is on any note card, appear before that end line, okay? Because once the HUD sees that end command, it doesn't read any more commands after that line, okay? So, once you've made your changes, you would save it, okay? And again, we don't need to reset the HUD, but what do we need to do to reload our Auto FX note card? Okay, do you know where the reload button is? Okay, click on the artiste, the words the artiste, and get your blue menu. And right above the reset button, there's a reload Auto FX button, and you click that. And then you should get some chat, and it should tell you that it reads 2 lines for your Auto FX note card. Okay, so everybody reload. And then what else would we need to do to make sure that our Auto FX note card works correctly? You can reload Events Sexy, but you don't have to unless you made a change. Yes, Lil, we need to turn the button green. Okay? So on your little buttons, the Auto FX is at the top. If it's red, you want to make it green. Okay? And you can turn all of your other buttons off if you want, so that you're just doing the Auto FX. And then click play. So click play and see if your events go off. I see particles. Yay, I see particles. Okay, so remember again, when it turns off and on is going to be tied to whatever you have put in your events note card. So did anybody not get it to work? If you have your events set up so that it's going to take a while, you can either just let it play or you can go in and modify your events card so that it happens more quickly. It's entirely up to you. I just want to make sure that you all feel comfortable knowing how to use the chat commands to do things, because you can use this to turn particles on and off. You can use this to open and close your curtains. You can use this for your faders if you use faders in your set. Okay, so did anybody not get it to work? Okay, so that now that we've done that, do the events make a little more sense? Do you see how things tie back to your events? Okay, good. If everybody can see that, then that's good. Okay, so again, you don't see how it ties back to the events path? Okay, well, you sent me yours. Let me look at it real quick. Okay, well, if I look at yours path, you have your first animation, your first event goes off at 1 second, right? So you're going to press play. 1 second later, you'll have an event. Then event number 2 goes off at 10 seconds, okay? And you're using duration. So 10 seconds after that, so at 11 seconds, your event number 2 is going to go off. So the way that you have, I just told you to set up your auto FX note card. 1 second in, when you go into that first animation, you will also, your particles should go off. And then on event number 2, which is 11 seconds in, the particles should stop, okay? Because the 1 and the 2 on your auto FX note card correspond to the 1 and the 2 on your events note card. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Yay. Yes. So it's just a matter of, and that's how, not just with the auto effects, but with other things too, those events that you have, whatever they are, whatever you've called them, however long they last, you're going to have events 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, however many you have. And then you're going to tie things to those events, whether it's a particle going off, whether it's something fading in and out, whether it's something you take on and off. It's all going to tie back to these events and the numbers of those events. Okay? Okay, so hopefully everybody's got their particles working. Okay. Now I know probably most of you don't use emotes. I'm going to cover them, but just very briefly. Okay, if you do use them, they're not really that complicated. If you don't, then you don't need to worry about this. Okay. If you look in your HUD, edit your HUD, go into the contents, there are two note cards for emotes. There's one called the Emote Titles note card and one called the EM Red Demo note card. Okay, and these are, the Red Demo one is the example note card that Yummy provides for you. Okay, and those are the default emotes that we saw earlier. This is where you would put your actual emotes. Okay, if you look at the Emote Titles note card, you will see some comments that are commented out. Anytime you see the slash asterisk, that means that it's commented out and the HUD will ignore it. So we talked last week about that's a way you can put notes for yourself in there if you want to. Okay, so you can see the notes, the lines that aren't commented out are the M Red Demo and the ad hoc emote. We're going to ignore the ad hoc emote for today. The M Red Demo on this Emote Titles note card is where you would put the name of whatever emote card you make. So say I was doing a dance and I made a note card called Banana Dance Emotes. Okay, so if that was the name of my note card, instead of putting M Red Demo in there, I would put in the name of my note card. Okay, and I generally use the asterisk. I don't know if you have to or not, but I do. Yummy can tell me whether I have to or not. So I would put that on my Emote Titles note card, and then I would add into the HUD my Banana Dance Emotes note card. Does everybody follow that? Winnie? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yay! So that's what I mean by everything tying back to those events note cards. That's exactly what it would be. If you wanted the emotes to only happen at 1, 3, 5, and 7, you would put them in your emote note card as 1, 3, 5, and 7, whatever you wanted those emotes to be. Okay? Now, the thing to remember is that because you're limited to 20 events, you're going to be limited to 20 emotes. I've never needed more than 20 emotes for a routine, but you might. So there are ways to get around the limit, but for now, just assume that 20 is your limit. Okay? So again, you would just create your note card for your own emotes, write your emotes, tie them to your events however you want. Then you would put that note card into your HUD, and then you would, on that Emote Titles note card, you would need to tell the HUD to use that emote note card to read, not the default Red Demo note card. Okay? You could have 20 emotes and 20 adorns because they go on different note cards. So see, it's not as limiting as it sounds because, again, we're trying to put all of those puzzle pieces together. Okay? Okay, so after you've created your note card and loaded in the HUD with your emotes and you've updated your Emote Titles note card, what would you need to do in order to test your note cards on the HUD, to test your emotes? You can reset it if you want. That would be one way to do it, but what's an easier way to do it? Yes, would be to click that, well, yes, you would need to reload it. So if you click on the menu, and now that I think about it, I'm not even sure I know where it is. Where is the reload for emotes, Yummy? Reload extra. Okay, and then the other thing that you would need to do is to turn on the auto emote button so that it's green. Okay, so again, that's one of the things that I like about this HUD is that as you put your pieces together, you can kind of test them and just test that piece of it so that you don't have to do everything each time if you don't want to. Okay. And don't forget, one of the things that you'll need to do once you've decided what pieces you're going to use for a routine is that you'll want to set up your config note card so that those buttons are green for you automatically. So for example, if you were going to do a routine, you would want auto sequence on, and say you're just going to use some particle effects and maybe some faders. You're not going to do any adorns or emotes or anything. So basically, you would only need the auto effects and the auto sequence buttons green. Okay, so whatever buttons you want to be green for your routine, make sure that you set them up on in your config note card. Okay. So it looks like most of you have a handle on the emotes. Okay. The last thing that I wanted to cover today was your sequence doesn't go in the events. Your sequence is listed separately on that sequence note card. And it's, I think, probably the only note card that's not actually tied to your events note card. Okay? Okay. The last thing that I wanted to cover today was the auto adorn function. And this is the function that lets you add and remove items like you could with a costume HUD. Okay? There's some more advanced versions, and I'm not going to cover those today. I'm just going to show you enough that you can add and remove costume pieces or particles that you might wear, things like that. Okay, so in order for it to work, and we talked about this before, you have to have RLV enabled. So if you use the official viewer, it doesn't work with RLV, so you'll have to have a third-party viewer. To use auto adorn, you have to do some upfront work and create RLV folders with the items you want to adorn and remove, just like you would with any other costume HUD. So in your RLV folder, in your inventory, you want to go down and you want to create a folder and give it this name. Okay, and include the exclamation point. Let me find my RLV folder here. Okay. And under this adorn folder is where you're going to create subfolders of things that you want to add and remove. Okay. So for each item or set of items that you want to add and remove, you would create a subfolder with a name that means something to you. Okay. And you're going to name them according to this. Okay, so it's going to be A and then whatever you want the name of the folder to be. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to add some hand particles in a routine, no, there's no space, then I might have a subfolder called hand particles. So I would name it, it would look like this. This would be the name of the folder. Okay, and you can name it whatever you want as long as it's something meaningful to you. Sometimes I'll put the name of the routine in it so I know which folder goes with what. So once you have the folder created, then you need to add the items that you want to add or remove as links in that folder. Okay, so for example, if I'm using my hand particles folder, I would locate the hand particles I wanted to use, copy them, and then paste as link into the subfolder. And then after you have put them in the subfolder, you want to where the items, okay, from that folder. This is just an extra step to make sure that they'll be correctly added and removed by the HUD. Okay, so you would set up whatever folders you want to add or remove whatever things that you're going to add or remove. Okay, so for now we're just going to stick with my example of hand particles. So I have a subfolder titled A Hand Particles, and I have links in that folder to the particles that I want to wear. Okay, so now I have to tell the HUD what folders and therefore what items to add and remove and when to do it. So in order to do that, you need to put some information in your Auto Adorns note card. Okay, so if you edit your HUD, go to the Contents tab and find the Auto Adorns note card, and it should be the second one down. Okay, when you open it, you'll see that there's a couple of things in it already, but those commands are not going to work for you unless you actually have folders with those names set up. Okay, but it does give you the format for setting up auto adorns or removes of your own. Okay, so does everybody have their auto adorns note card open? You see the spotlight and the black and red canes? Okay, so assuming that you did have these folders set up, how many of these commands would actually fire if you played your HUD? One, yes. Why? Because there's an end command, yes. Okay, so if you look at this example, if you have that spotlight folder set up, that's the only auto adorn that's going to happen because there's an end command after it. Okay, yes, they are. You have to be just as anal about typos with this HUD, maybe even more so than you do with every other HUD. Okay, names and stuff do matter. Okay, so looking at the commands, you see an A added to the beginning of some of them. Okay, now yes, we've titled the folders that. However, the A is what tells the HUD to add that folder on the specified event. Okay, so again, all your commands are tied back to your events. So on event number 2, whenever you have that set up to happen, the HUD would add whatever items were in the spotlight folder. Okay, so to remove items, you set up your folders in the exact same way. The only difference is the way you set up your commands in the Auto Adorns note card. The A means add, the R means replace, but I'm not going to cover replace because that gets kind of complicated, and the minus means remove. Okay, so for example, here is what my Auto Adorns note card looked like in a routine. Okay, so what happened on events 1 and 2? Yes, I added. So those are both particles and they both got added on events 1 and 2. Okay, when do they come off? 6 and 7, because you can see there on 6 and 7, instead of an A, they both have a minus, so those are going to come off. Okay? And then on 10 and 11, 2 more things got added. 12, something came off. 13, something got added. 14, something got removed. And 16, something got added. Okay? So, does everybody see how that ties back to your events? Question, Winnie? Mm-hmm. No, you don't need a minus folder. You just need the A folder, and then when you put that minus in the auto adorns, the HUD knows that means take that folder off. Yes, everything going off or on goes in the subfolders under Adorn. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're creating something path, it's handy to keep the events folder or events note card open. That way you know what events you want to tie your adorns or moves to. Does that make sense? Yes, right now we're just talking about the adorns. But those first numbers tied in front of it are tied back to your event numbers again. Okay? No, I want you guys to ask questions. If you don't understand it, I want you to ask questions because, again, Yummy and I have found that that's what happens and why people don't always stick with the HUD is because they get frustrated when they don't understand it. And I don't want you guys to be frustrated. I want you to understand how it works. We want you to have those little successes along the way so that you understand how it works. You time it, Winnie, by tying it back to your events. So that's why your events are so important. If you want it to happen at a certain time, then you tie it back to those emotes. Yep, so if you only want them to go off for 20 seconds and you have an event that lasts for 20 seconds, you can have them go off at that emote. Are you talking about, tell me where you're thinking the duration goes. Okay, it's the same thing whether you use duration or elapsed, however you have it set up. So maybe you have duration. Let me type in some examples here real quick. Okay, so you have duration, and then you would have, say, event number 1 starts at 1 second, and event number 2, because it's duration and you want your particles to go off for 20 seconds, it happens at 21 seconds. So event number 1 happens at 1 second. No, if you're using duration, it would be 20 seconds. Sorry. So then you would tell the particles to turn on event 1 and turn off at event 2. Right. Well, you would tell it to turn off and on. Got it? Okay. Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Because I want to make sure that you guys understand this, because I'm gonna give you some homework here. Okay. Question, Sexy? Mm-hmm. Right. It would get added to you on event 1 and it would get removed from you on event 2. Yes. I mean on event 4. No. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yes, Sexy. So you would add the particles on 1, they would start on 2, they would stop on 3, and then they would get removed from you on 4. Path, you have a question? There's no dumb questions. I told you that. I've asked them all, so they're not dumb. You know, that's a good question. I'm going to throw that over to Yummy because that's something I've never explored. I know it means something. You have to have it there. So if, for instance, you wanted it to be on event 1, but you wanted it to delay for 5 seconds, then you would put a 5 there instead of a 0. Oh, so you could add something on event 1 and then have another event 1 adorn, but with a delay? Aha. Okay, so say for example, well, let's just use Sexy's example. Okay, so she wants to add her particles on event number 1. So maybe something else is going on in event number 2. So instead of having the particles with the... Okay, wait, that's not a good example. Let me back up for a second. Okay, say we want to add particles on event number 1, and then we want to add something else. Maybe we want to add, oh, let's just say a hat. Okay, but we both want them to happen kind of on event number 1. But we can only have one event number 1, right? So we would put the first event in there to add our particles just like we said. So we'd have event 1, add our hand particles, and then the 0 after it on our first line. But what Yummy's saying is then maybe we want to add the hat right after that on event 1, but give it a delay. So we could put in a line that says that, and the HUD would know 5 seconds after event 1 to add the hat. Now, Yummy, correct me if I said all that wrong, because I've not used this, so. Am I following you correctly, Yummy? Is that what would happen? Okay. So does that make sense to everybody? So this is one of those occasions where you could actually have more than the 20 events, but then you get into some things that are kind of complicated. And like I said, I've not used every one of these. So that's why I encourage you, in between classes to read the documentation that she's given you so that you can kind of play around with this, because you'll probably discover something I don't know. Winnie? Mm-hmm. Yes. If you want to actually remove them from your avatar. Right. Or you're going to wear them the whole time. Which, if they're chat command particles, may not make a difference. It's entirely up to you and how you want to do your routine. Yes, the remove is a different event. Although I suppose you could do it with a delay, like we just talked about. Although I'm not sure why you'd want to remove it, add something and then remove it that quickly, but you could. And that is very helpful. See, thank you guys for asking questions, because that was something I didn't know, and now I can try it out and add those kinds of things into my routine. So no dumb questions. Okay, any other questions before I hand out homework? Okay, so homework for the next session, I want you to create at least 2 adorn subfolders with items that you can add or remove. I don't care what it is, if it's a particle, if it's a piece of clothing, hair, eyelashes, shoes, I don't care what it is. Just something that you can add and something that you can remove, okay? And then set up your auto adorns note card so that you add at least 1 item and remove at least 1 item. It can be the same item. If you want to add it and then remove it, I don't care. Makes no difference to me. So that goes in your auto adorns note card. In your auto FX note card, create at least 2 entries for chat commands. So one might be to start a particle effect, and one might be to stop it. Maybe you want to show or hide an object with a fader. Again, how you do it, what you do is entirely up to you, but 2 entries for chat commands on your auto effects. Okay, so those are the 2 things that you need to do, and I'm going to ask you again to demonstrate those in class next week. Now, if you want to combine them with the sequence that you showed today, that would be amazing, okay, but you don't have to. But if you want to set it up with your adorns, removes, and your AutoFX chat commands, make it like a little mini routine, okay? And then we'll demonstrate those at the beginning of class next time. Don't forget, everything is tied to your events, so make sure you have your events set up properly. And those of you that gave me your homework note cards, you set them up correctly. So keep doing what you're doing, it all works. And as always, if you guys have any questions or you need some help, just ask me. If I'm on, don't feel like you're interrupting me. Just send me an IM, say, hey, Kat, I have a question, and I'll be happy to help, okay? I know several of you are trying to either revamp or redo some older spot routines to work with the artiste. I think that is an amazing idea. It's a really good way to learn. You already know what the routine is going to look like, so you can tell if you've done something wrong when you're translating it over. So do that. I think that's a great idea. If you want to start from scratch, that is great too. We just, like I said, Yemi and I really want to make sure you guys are having those kind of aha, yes, I get that. I know how to do this moments, okay? Because that's what's going to keep you using this HUD. Okay, so if you don't have any questions about the homework or have any other questions, you are free to go. If you have questions, I will hang around and answer them. Zed? Yummy can answer that. I think it depends on what version of the HUD you have, Zed. I didn't think they do, but I think they are required now, is what she told me last. Because I know I've done it before without them, but I've used them every time. Okay, so just put the quotes around it to be safe. Okay. Any other questions? Great. I'm happy to hear that you guys are trying to use this live. I think that's a really good way to learn it. So again, if you guys run into questions or problems as you're working, just holler at me or holler at Yummy, and one of us will be happy to come help. And it does work with Spot. I know we haven't gotten to pallets and movers yet, but I'm working on that. Oh, that was something I was going to ask before you all run away. I had originally intended to have a movers class after this one, but I only have 2 people signed up for it, and one doesn't really need it, and the other one's already taken it. So I need to take a week off in between, but would you guys be open to having the pallet mover class being moved up and starting like February 14th? Yeah, if you've already signed up for it, you'll be in it. I just want to make sure that my moving the dates around isn't going to cause problems for people. So if you guys are okay with that, then just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and I will... Oh, I forgot that it was Valentine's Day. Is that a bad day to start? I don't want to ruin people's date nights. Okay. Well, I will work something up. If nobody has a huge objection, then I will work something up, and just like I said, we'll put it in the back of your minds that we'll start on the 14th with the palette class. It'll start February 14th, Path, and it'll be 3 sessions again too. Okay, and I'll show you how to make a palette as mover, and between now and then I'll learn how to do some fancy things with it so I can show you guys fancy things to do with it. Okay, so like I said, I'll hang around for a few minutes if you guys have any other questions. If not, you are free to go. I know you guys have shows and things to do, so thank you all for coming, and we will see you next week.